Last week, the CEO of AOL, Tim Armstrong, announced the scaling back of 401k contributions at a staff meeting. And when further discussing why the company has decided to cut 401ks for their employees, he discussed how the cutbacks are basically blamed on cost associated with Obamacare. And then he specifically mentioned distressed babies. He said, we had 2 AOLers that had distressed babies that were born that we paid $1 million each to make sure those babies were okay in general. And those are the things that add up into our benefit costs. So when we had the final decision about what benefits to cut because of the increased healthcare costs, we made the decision, and I made the decision to basically change the 401k plan. So here you have a CEO of a major company, AOL, single out 2 employees for the reason why every single employee will get their 401k cut. And not just those employees, but the reasoning were the children of those 2 employees who were born in a distressed, which means life-threatening, circumstance, where the money from these healthcare plans that were spent on these babies basically saved the children's lives. And here he is complaining and using that, pitting coworker against coworker here, so that he can't be blamed for cutting the 401ks of the entire company. Now I'd like to add here that Tim Armstrong took home $12 million in 2012. And during that conference where he said he was going to cut the employee benefits, that very same day, he touted that AOL had the best quarterly earnings that quarter in years. Now, he's since reversed the decision, and the AOL company will not be cutting the 401k plans of their employees, specifically because of the PR blowback they received from naming those 2 citing those 2 distressed babies that were born by AOL employees. He said, on a personal note, this is in his letter saying how they will be restoring the full retirement benefits to employees. He stated on a personal note, I made a mistake and I apologize for my comments last week at the town hall when I mentioned the specific healthcare examples and trying to explain our decision-making process around our employee benefit programs. So what he's basically saying in this reversal of this 401k cut, which I'm happy he's doing, but what he's basically saying is this was not something the company had to do. This was not to save the company. It's not that they had to do it because it was to save on costs. The company needed to do this. This was simply the company wanted to get as much profit as possible. So they were ready to throw their employees under the bus by not only cutting their 401k plans, but blaming 2 specific employees for the cuts because they had the audacity to have children who happened to need special treatment and care to survive their birth. Now, one of these people, the mother of one of these children, Deanna Thye, wrote an article for Slate this past weekend, and I urge you to find it and read it because it is really good. She is the wife of the AOL employee who's an editor for AOL. And he said that he had people in the company come to him knowing he was one of the people that Tim Armstrong was talking about. I mean, imagine how he felt. Imagine how she felt. She writes, I take issue with how he reduced my daughter to a distressed baby who cost the company too much money, how he blamed the saving of her life and his decision to scale back employee benefits, how he exposed the most searing experience of our lives, one that my husband and I still struggle to discuss with anyone but each other for no other purpose than an absurd justification for corporate cost cutting. We experienced exactly the kind of unforeseeable, unpreventable medical crisis that any health plan is supposed to cover. Isn't that the whole point of health insurance?
She's exactly right, of course.
She goes on to say how the pregnancy was completely fine for 5 months. This wasn't something that this was... She didn't even have to state this because it's unnecessary, but she stated how it was a completely normal pregnancy up until 5 months when suddenly something went wrong. Yes, we had a preemie in intensive care. This was not our intention. While he's at it, why not call out the women who get cancer, the parents of kids with asthma? These rank among the nation's most expensive medical conditions. Would anyone dare to single out these people for simply availing themselves of their health benefits? Which is another point.
Well, and of course, if he did, it would be just as
horrible.
Right.
But there is something to him deciding that
Right.
those two specific
Definitely.
were fine to mention.
Definitely.
And that is just the demonizing of women who choose to get pregnant while having a career. He would not have done this for anybody else. It was easier because it was a woman, and it was easier because it's a woman who got pregnant. It's that simple. It really is stunning.